It's a gloomy day out in Metro Atlanta today, but the show must go on. So, shit, I don't know. But today's a bit of an interesting topic, and it's going to be probably a bit of a longer video too, because not only am I going to expand upon a certain topic, but I'm also going to answer some questions that I've received about this topic. If you don't know where I got these questions from, I got a TikTok page, links in the link tree, check it out. But I've had some people reach out to me about certain videos I've made, about certain topics, and I've had a couple questions about the specific topic come up a lot. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do this little Q&A style where I'm just gonna go through these questions that people have asked me, and I'm gonna address it all in this one big video because it's better to do it on here than TikTok, I would say. But I want to talk about therapy, why I started going, what made me go in the first place. So if you're coming from my TikTok background, I'm very adamant about people needing to go and get help and work through their problems, work through their trauma, things of that nature, because we need to be breaking cycles of older generations. That way we can have future generations not struggle with the same shit we struggled with, especially from the aspect of mental health, especially from the perspective of immigrant background. I'm not an immigrant, but immigrant parents and being brown, it's not something that gets talked about a lot, especially not amongst the dudes. I even know brown dudes now that don't talk about their fucking feelings, and it's clear as day. And they're gonna have a hard time when it comes to relationships because this is a big part. Being able to communicate your feelings, articulate them well. People aren't doing that shit. So I decided, you know what? If I am telling people that they gotta do it, I need to start setting an example. But I've been in therapy since I was about 14, 15 years old. I'm 21 now. And I didn't start therapy voluntarily. It's not something that I just woke up one day and said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I was pushed into it. And I talked about this very briefly on my TikTok, but I'm going to get a little bit more in detail here. I was bullied a lot as a kid, and not just that, I'm not going to get into a lot of specifics on how my life was growing up. And I feel like me saying that my life was hard just kind of makes it seem like I'm pitying myself or making it feel like I'm sorry for myself or whatever, but that's not the case. This is for educational purposes. My life was fucked up. I had a lot of shit go on in my life. And as a result, I've had a lot of problems. And the biggest problems I had as a child was my personal battles with depression, anxiety, and then also suicide. Not only losing people to it, but also attempting it myself. So in high school, my freshman year of high school, I had a counselor of mine get information from. I'm not gonna get into the story on how that's not getting into all that, but she found out, pulled me in to the counselor's office. I had to talk about it, so I sat there, I let it out, and then she put me on this program. First I was put on suicide watch. I had to do like check-ins and shit like that, but also I got put in this program where a therapist from like the local area would come for free. They would come for about an hour. I get excused from class. I can go and I can talk about shit. I didn't want to do it, and not only did I not want to do it, but the program, since I was a minor, also required my family to be notified of everything going on. So you can imagine that it was not good at all. But nonetheless, I started going. For the first few months, I didn't say a damn word. I wasted that woman's time. It was hard for me to for me to talk about things, and as a child, for me, it was either I overshared way too much with people I shouldn't have, or I didn't share anything at all. And it was always that one extreme versus the other. So for the first few months in therapy, I didn't talk about anything. Just wasted her time, honestly. It wasn't until maybe about 2.5, 3-ish months in where I actually started talking about my stuff. And the thing is that there was a barrier, there was a disconnect, and even though that therapist did help me with being able to communicate better, with being able to express my emotions better, things of that nature, There's still a lot of disconnect. She was a white lady. And even though I got a lot of love for her, she might even see this video. Shout out to you. There was disconnect. Because I'm a brown Muslim guy living in the South that was rejected by his own communities and just grew up very, very unconventional and untraditional from the lens of a South Asian in the United States. This is Canada, the UK, this is a little different. But specifically in the United States, these situations are not very common. Besides the point though. I saw that therapist for about 4 years. And there was a good time where I didn't go for like a good 7, 8 months. And then I eventually got in contact with a new therapist, not just a new therapist, but she is Pakistani and Muslim, just like myself. And that made a hell of a difference, a hell of a change. Because now when I was able to talk about things as a kid, things that I went through, I was feeling understood. And not only understood, but she's also able, she's so good at her job, man. She's low-key to go. My friends think she deserves double pay because of all the shit that she had to deal with me, but you know, shout out her. So she's also able to break things down in a way that it's really able to resonate with me. But she started seeing me with 4 years worth of reps of therapy. Not everyone's going to start that way. A lot of people, this is going to be their first time. This is going to be their canon event walking into a therapy session, and essentially everything they've ever known about life is going to be questioned. And not only is it going to be questioned, it's going to be broken down, it's going to be understood, and a lot of people get scared of this idea. But the thing about therapy is, I also tell this about anything else, whether it's going to the gym or learning a skill, that shit's going to take time. It's going to take time. It's not like you can just put 10 sessions on, within 10 sessions you're going to be healed. It's not how that fucking works. This is a, dare I say, lifelong thing where you're going to have to continue to work at this thing. It's like a muscle. This is your mental health is figuratively speaking like a muscle. You have to continue to train. You have to continue to work it. You have to continue to challenge yourself and have those uncomfortable conversations with yourself, sit with uncomfortable feelings in order to truly grow. That's what it is. And the big problem, in my opinion, is that a lot of people don't want to do this because they're scared. They're scared, and it's mainly an ego thing. It's an ego thing from the aspect of they don't want to be challenged. They would rather stay in a familiar hell than an unfamiliar heaven. And I know leaving the familiarity and going into unfamiliarity is a huge, daunting task. It is. And in the case of me, I was pushed into it. It's not a voluntary decision I made. I had to go to this program. I had to do these things. So that way now going to a new therapist wasn't daunting for me anymore because I knew what to expect. Overall, generally speaking. So I try to cut people some slack. And the way that I'm going to cut people some slack and the way that I'm going to try and bring the human back into this idea is by answering some questions. So that's what we're going to do. So I got my phone here. I got a hell of questions that we're going to go through. I'm going to try and break down everything the best way I can. And if you ever have any follow-up questions, you can always just leave a comment on the video. I'll respond to it. I respond to everybody. DMs, comments, I respond to everybody. Because who the fuck am I and Drake? I can respond to people. So some of these questions I already answered. Like what made me decide to start. I didn't have a choice. How did you find a therapist who understood or respected your faith? I didn't always have that, but I ended up finding one. Did I choose a Muslim therapist? Yes. If not, how did you make sure your therapist was culturally and religiously sensitive? The one thing about my white therapist before I had my current one was that she was also very understanding. She didn't pass any judgments, and she realized that a lot of the shit that I was going through was kind of out of her own personal experience scope. So she would be very open to listening to the things that I would talk about. But I understand that everyone's going to be like that. A lot of therapists are going to be in the regard of they're just going to stick to the practices that they know, and they're not going to be open to trying different things. But I'm grateful that my wife therapist did do that. So I guess I should preface this because all these questions will kind of go around this. But one thing that I will say is that I think if you can find someone of a similar culture, similar faith to you, it makes things 10 times easier. So I'm to keep that preface in mind while I answer some of these questions. And I know this is a very like spontaneous kind of thing. I'm not editing this at all. This is all one take. So. So another question I got was, have you ever felt like you had to defend your beliefs or explain your faith in your sessions? No. Um, Not necessarily defend, but explain absolutely. When I had to work with that, when I was working with, not, damn. When I was working with the white therapist, and yes, I had to explain things about how things work Islamically and how culturally things were. Because, of course, that was out of her scope. But it wasn't in the sense that I had to defend the faith. She was always very understanding and very open to things I talked about. Did my family support going to therapy? Fuck no. It's also one of those things that I still go back and forth with my family about a lot. And I mean, the immigrant brown people, brown parents. Like, what do you? Or it's my mom, man. It's my mom. My sister. I mean, me and her are on the same page when it comes to this stuff. But convincing my mother and how all these things work, it's gonna be a lifelong worth effort. Follow up question to that: If not, if your family didn't support you going to therapy, how did you handle that? Just realize that I don't have to seek the approval of my mother all the time. There's gonna be things that I do that my mother will disagree with. That's okay. I'm my own person at the end of the day. She's not gonna be the one directly raising my children. She's not gonna be the one that's gonna be marrying my spouse. I understand that if I want to be able to raise a healthy, loving family, that there are things that I went through as a child that I have to work through. And I refuse to pass on, I guess you could say, cycles that I don't want to say that she played into because my mother's great. I love my mother to death, but there are things that she also was a part of in terms of a cycle that she didn't realize was a cycle. Because they didn't really think about that stuff back in the day. But at least now we're in the position where we can think about these things. So I don't I don't seek the approval or the validation from my mother when it comes to going to therapy. I don't. Because like I said, she's gonna die one day. And I still have a whole life that until I'm gonna be living, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of the things that I need to take care of. And I'd like to say that my growth and my maturity, my development since going to therapy has maybe been an example of how it's helped. But I mean, if she wants to accept that for what it is, that's completely up to her. How long did it take for you to feel comfortable opening up? Was letting your guard down a gradual process? Yes, it was. It's not when you start therapy. It's not like you just sit down and let your whole life story spill right off the bat. Usually, they'll always start with just some general stuff. Like when I first started with my new therapist, my Desi Muslim one. We started by talking about just some petty drama that was going on in my life at the time. And now, of course, we can have much deeper, much more serious conversation because that trust has been built, and that's usually how it's always going to go with a good therapist. And that's another thing is you don't make it don't think that you have to stick to one therapist for the rest of your life. That's not how that works. You can always find other therapists out there. You gotta find what works for you. Have you ever felt misunderstood because of your religion or culture? Yes, I did. How was that handled? Honestly, like I said with my first therapist, there's always that disconnect. So I would try my best to explain it the way that I could, but at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of that advice and experience and breaking down, you're not gonna understand unless you're in it. So I guess you could say progress from that perspective, it did stall. How many sessions should I attend before I can make an informed decision about whether therapy is right for me? I don't think there's a set number. And I think approaching therapy with a set number of sessions in mind is a destructive way of looking at it. That's like saying that, okay, I give myself 10 gym sessions, and if I'm not coming out looking like fucking Sam Sulek, then this gym shit ain't worth it. It's not necessarily about the number of sessions, it's more about how is your progress looking. If you go to the gym consistently for 3 months and you're taking progress pictures and you're doing everything you need to do, you look at 3 months from time, you say, oh damn, I'm looking different. It's gonna keep you going because you see that progress. Therapy is the same way, but the progress is measured differently. And the way it's measured differently is that, for example, now when you're in the situations that perhaps used to trigger certain emotions or tendencies of yours, that now when you're in those same situations, how do you react? Do you react differently now? Do you not maybe react the same way? Maybe do you react to a lesser degree? These are all signs of growth. And if that's working or that's happening, then therapy is working. Keep going. So I think putting a set number of sessions is a very disingenuous and setting yourself up for failure kind of way of looking at it. Do you prefer virtual sessions or in person? I always think in person is better. I think it's more intimate that way. Intimate in the aspect of, I think it's a lot easier to build that trust in person than it is virtually. But to each their own. Try both. See what you like. Do you feel therapy strengthened or challenged your values in any way? Yes, I actually don't think I would be as practicing of a Muslim if it wasn't for therapy, which for some people might be crazy to hear. The therapy made me realize how important Islam actually is for me. It made me realize how important my faith actually is, because throughout all of this craziness that's going on in my life, my faith is the one thing that's constant. My 5 prayers, reading a couple pages of Quran, whatever that may be, that has been the constant throughout anything going on, good or bad. I always have to get up and pray those 5 prayers. I'm always gonna touch that Quran, and it's that reset throughout the day. It's that realignment, the recentering of my life. And I would not have understood this if it wasn't for therapy and realizing that everyone needs that one constant that brings them back, and for me it was my faith. And no matter what's going on, I will always have that to come back to, and for that I'm blessed within itself. I'm winning just because of that. Would you recommend therapy to other Muslims? Absolutely. I think every single person, Muslim, non-Muslim, black, white, gay, straight, everyone can go to therapy and take something away from it, as long as you go in with the intention that you want to be a better person. If you're going in closed-minded, if you're going in with the idea that this is bullshit and you're just doing this because of whatever reason, don't waste your time, don't waste their time. And that might sound crazy because earlier I said that I did waste that woman's time, but there was enough to a point where, I had to keep going for so long that I said, you know what, I might as well just see what the fuck this is. And when I did do that, I started seeing progress. So be open-minded when it comes to it. And also realize that, you're a human being. You've made mistakes. You've done shit that you're not proud of. You will do shit in the future you're not proud of. There is shit that you've been through that you haven't processed correctly. Maybe you don't know how to process things correctly. These are all things that you can learn how to do. And it's hard to learn that shit by yourself. That's why you go to a professional. What advice would you give someone who's scared to start? Understanding that you're human. I think that's the most important thing. Understanding that you are a human being that, again, has been through things, that has been subconsciously put through repeated cycles of older generations. And a lot of the times our anxiety and our fear just relies into the unknown. Like, I don't know what's going to come out of this. But reality with therapy is that you don't have anything to lose. You come out of it either a better person, or you come out of it understanding that, you're not this perfect person you thought you were, and you have a lot of work to do. But guess what? Both things continue to give you things to work on, give you things to continue to get up and improve, which I think is a very important part of just life as a human, is to constantly be better. Constantly look out to be better than you were yesterday. And that's like a multifaceted thing that can be applied to so many different domains of your life. But your mental health really is I'd say arguably one of the most, if not the most important. I'd say spiritual, mental, physical are on the same boat, but it's very important. If you're not gonna do it for yourself, do it for the future generations. Do it for your kids. Do it for your partner. Because how do you think it's gonna feel if you let good opportunities, good blessings roll past you simply because you weren't able to swallow your pride and go figure out what the fuck is wrong with you? Everybody got shit that they gotta work on. Everyone has stuff that's wrong with them. None of us are perfect. Even if you live the best life possible, you're still gonna have things that you're still gonna have canon events in your life that's gonna make you think about your life. So how about you go and figure out how to process those things? Like there's always gonna be something for you to work on. And then the last few set of questions. How do you measure your progress to know whether therapy is actually working and making a difference? Same way you measure progress in the gym, like I mentioned earlier. You go to the gym for 3 months straight, you're eating clean, you're doing your cardio, you're lifting consistently, you're doing your progressive overload, you're training intensely. You take progress pictures every week. You look at your day 1 to day 90. You see visible changes. Maybe your chest is looking better. Maybe your triceps looking a little bit larger. Maybe your jaw's coming in a little bit better. Maybe your waist is slimming up. You can look at these things and say, oh my God, what I'm doing is working. It's the same idea conceptually in terms of therapy. It's just gauged differently. So like I said earlier, let's say there's a certain thing that someone can say to you that puts you over edge with anger. Let's say you got anger issues. You're just like your father and you fucking blow up. That was like a huge red button for you. It was for me growing up. But now when someone says something like that to me, I don't get angry anymore. And I realized that as time went on, that, oh, these things that used to piss me off a lot, these things that used to make me upset, these things that these phrases that people used to say to me used to upset me a lot. Now it doesn't. And I sit there and say, I wonder why it doesn't bother me anymore. Then I sit there and I realize, oh, it doesn't bother me because now when I'm angry, here's what I do. When I'm sad, here's what I do. I've now been given an understanding and a level of intelligence that's going to let me process things that are going on. And when I'm actually able to apply that in real time, then of course these things are working. But just like everything else, just like going to the gym consistently or learning a skill, you have to be persistent. This isn't something that you can just say, okay, I'm going to do 10 sessions and I'm done. This is going to be a lifelong process, but it's a process. It's better to start sooner than later. So how do you gauge it? How do you respond to situations that used to go negatively for you? Can you respond in a completely positive or neutral way now? Maybe if you still respond negatively, does it take you a little bit longer for it to do so? Can you sit with that emotion a little bit longer than you could beforehand? These are all metrics for progress. Follow-up question to that. If it is, in what ways has it helped you become better to yourself and to others? And does that level of self-awareness ever feel overwhelming or even crippling at times? It's helped me in the aspect of now I'm able to articulate my emotions, not just for myself and for my own well-being, but also being able to articulate for other people watching. Like one of the reasons why I think that I'm not fucking Mr. Beast, but I've gained a solid following in the 3 or 4 months I've been doing this. And I feel like one of the big reasons why is because I've been able to articulate my emotions and my thoughts in a manner that makes other people understand and also relate to. And even though I've been out in public communicating, my people skills have always been something that I've never had to worry about because of just how I live my life. I've always had to be in front of people talking. I learned a different type of communication, and that has helped me with my own internal processing as well as helping other people. And I've always been big on paying shit forward. So when I've learned things, I try to pay it forward by helping others, because maybe someone is in the same exact position I was when I was 14, 15, 16 years old. So it's helped me from that aspect, just being able to articulate better. And does that level of self-awareness ever feel overwhelming or even crippling at times? Absolutely. One thing I talked about plenty of times is that I feel like a lot of people that are just able to get up and just go do shit, just try shit, see if it works. A lot of them live to a degree in a sense of ignorance. That they don't have to worry about consequences of what they do because they work from a place of stability. They work from a place where they can go fuck up and they will have some sort of safety net. They'll have something to fall back on. I didn't have any of that. So now as a result, I've also been hyper self-aware about anything that I do, because anything that I do, I have to think of the implications it's gonna have. Whether it's not posting videos, I have to think about the implications. Who's gonna see this? Can shit be taken the wrong way? Whatever it is, or when it's risk when it comes to my own personal life, about my career, whatever it is that I want to do. Like I always have to think about these things because I'm by myself. I have to solo this shit. So in a way, it's absolutely paralyzing because I don't feel like I have been able to spread my wings and fly the way that others around me have been able to. But the shift in mindset that I've had is that, so fucking what? So what that they've had this ability and I haven't? I now have to build it. But think about it. You actually doing your homework versus using ChatGPT to do your homework. Will you retain some things doing it from chat? Sure, right? But if you did your homework, question for question, you wrote each thing, you thought about everything critically, you had to build it, you had to answer each question by yourself. In the long run, who's going to understand the material better? The person that had to do it, right? So yeah, these people are working from areas that I wish I had growing up. But there's going to be a point where there's a crossroads where these people that have had it easier are going to meet me where I'm at, where I've had it harder now I've caught up. Because let's be real. Despite all my shit, I'm still in the same rooms with these motherfuckers. I know this got to eat at them to a degree. There's going to be a crossroads at one point. And now, at that crossroads is where they're going to start realizing how hard this life shit really is. That's where their dips are going to come. Their canon events in their mid-20s, 30s, 40s. I've already dealt with that shit. So my trajectory was low in my teens and 20s, early 20s. Once I'm like 25, 26, I'm gone. I'm gone. Y'all gonna be choking on my fucking dust. So that's helped me. There's going to be a day where this shit's going to have a crossroads and I'm going to blow by these people that have had it easier than me. And that's not knocking anybody, by the way. That's just putting confidence back into myself that I've come this far to be in the same rooms with these people, knowing that I've been at a disadvantage from the jump. There's going to be a day where we're going to be on the same playing field. Y'all not going to keep up with the boy. I promise you that. I promise you that. Bookmark that shit. But yeah, so those are the questions. This is, like I said, a bit of a longer video. But I hope this benefits some people. And let me know if you have any more questions. You can always leave a comment here. You can reach out to me on my Instagram or on my TikTok. But like, comment, subscribe. Hope y'all fuck with the videos. Mr. Beast, we coming for you.